Again, momentum is bearish. Momentum is bearish, but the trend signals are still bullish. I think we get that bigger pullback. We'll be watching to see if we validate a higher low. Again, oscillators form these bullish divergences. I talked about them at great length and detail at the January low when we were tagging that trend line of support that I talked about in great length and detail. Predicted we bounce off that trend line before we ever reached it, and we did. Amazing, amazing signals. If we go briefly negative and then turn back up or stay in positive territory, then that would be a positive sign, confirming a higher low. If we go negative and we start taking out the January low, it's going to invalidate my count if something else is going on. But my guess is we're going to see a higher low. Predicted this pullback. It's happening. I told you I didn't think it was done because I have the guts to tell you exactly what I think. I still don't think it's done. I think we'll end up taking out the Monday's low from this last Monday here, which was the DeepSeek sell-off. I think we'll form bullish divergences on those 4-hour charts and bottom out. Testing the upper boundary of the bull flag once again, which I've been talking about at great length and detail. Here, again, another amazing bullish divergence. My signals nailed it. Again, here with our January bottom. Again, we've rallied back up into the positive portion of the cloud. Could drop into the negative region of the cloud and again, take out this line, bouncing surrounding this area here. But I think we'll get back into the positive portion of the cloud. And then again, we might see oscillators dip briefly negative and confirm a higher low, or they might try to stay in the positive region and do that. I am looking for a higher low, but the signals nailed it. And back over here, when we bottomed out, again, the 52,000 area is a higher low, moved into the positive region of the cloud, and it stayed consistently bullish up until we got the negative divergence right here at that trend line that we slammed into, the 2021 low and the 2017 trend line, both of them with the linear scale here. And again, that gave us this sell-off, and the bullish diversions have given us this rebound. So I'm looking for confirmation of a higher low now. Absolutely amazing signals. Again, the bullish divergences on my oscillators mark the bottom at that trend line of support. You can see it right here. And again, now we're coming back down. Again, we're right here. We're trying to go. We're right at the center line here. We're trying to go into the negative region. That could give us a bigger pullback, a bigger Fibonacci retracement, which I think is likely. But then I think you're going to establish a higher low. To be bearish is dropping below the 100 period moving average and staying below it, not being able to get back above it. Even if we drop below it, you can bounce off of it at this support area, but I don't think we take out the January low. But again, bouncing off this area or dipping below it and bouncing off of it, that's bullish. Dropping below it is bearish. Remaining below it, not being able to get back above it. Bitcoin follows the 100 period moving average in the daily time frame, follows the 20-week moving average in the weekly time frame. And the fact that we're not getting above this line right here, we needed to be able to clear this line in order to resume the advance. We're stalling at it. That's telling me we're probably going to see this begin to get a bigger pullback, this volatility surrounding the tariffs here. So again, there might be more work to be done. We could see even some of the trend signals change, short-term swing trend signals. We get a bigger pullback, but again, going to be looking for another sell-off, and maybe we get another bottoming tail like this or like this. We'll be watching to see what happens. Watch the Fibonacci retracement levels I'm talking about in this video. Here we're trying to take out the cloud right here. The momentum has been bullish since the January low, and we got this bounce right here. If we take it out, drop below the lower Bollinger Band and take out the low from Monday, the DeepSeek sell-off low that we got that bottoming tail on, and again, get a larger Fibonacci retracement, and then I think we can resume the advance. The price oscillator is likely going to validate a higher low for Bitcoin, and again, while I do expect a bigger pullback, I think that will likely bounce surrounding our 100 period moving average. We're just above it. VWAP support did an amazing job of calling the bottom along with horizontal support. Told you again, if we do pull back, the VWAP support right here from the breakout could be where we're headed right here. And again, a deeper Fibonacci retracement coming down to this area and then bouncing and then coming up and breaking through 108, 109,000. I think it's likely going to play out that way. And I believe Bitcoin is in minor wave 5. I think we're getting the first two subwaves of minor wave 5 that will eventually take us to the upper channel here. As I've been talking about, I think we have 5 minor waves that are under construction, and we're in minor wave 5, and that will complete intermediate wave 5, this whole 5-leg push higher right here. And I think that this whole push higher, these 5 intermediate waves, will complete primary wave 5. So I'm looking for a major cycle top here in this area that's going to be followed by a very ugly sell-off as Bitcoin begins to price in real first recession. And again, with the pandemic was not a real test of what we're going to see happen with Bitcoin going through a recession. You know, you had all this stimulus and then did not see a bear market with the S&P 500. Bounced off the 200-week moving average and the 50-month moving average. It didn't take those levels out. That was just a major crash move, larger bull market. So we're going to see how Bitcoin performs in a real recession where the S&P is moving into a real bear market. And eventually Bitcoin's probably going to come back and take out this low right here in a larger ABC move if we complete the cycle top, as I think we're going to, probably at this trend line. Again, if we take our time reaching it, could go above 125,000. But again, a lot of my target levels are pointing towards that 120 to 125,000 area. Bitcoin will likely reach that here in the first quarter. Please support the channel with the link directly below. That allows me to be able to provide you this information. If you like the charts, you like the indicators, please support the channel today. If you could take a moment to do that, I would really appreciate it. Any sponsors, I don't want to send you to an exchange that wants to get you all leveraged up to wipe you out. They contact me all the time. I turn those offers down. I don't want to sell you stuff, but I need your help in order to make it work. If you can just partner with me, like these wonderful indicators, I get a lot of benefit from my indicators. If you do too, take the time to support the channel today. I thank you for your consideration for that. Watch the video all the way through. Important stuff happening. Your pullback and then likely new all-time highs for Bitcoin coming here in February. Okay, it is the Saturday session for Bitcoin. Bitcoin's down about 0.25% at the moment. It's testing the 20-period moving average in the daily time frame. Which is the blue line you see right here. It's dropped back below the 10, which is the red line on this daily chart. And we have another lower high that has set up here. Again, I've talked about the possibility of still coming back down and getting a larger Fibonacci retracement. We never did from this advance right here. I predicted a bounce off of this trend line or the 100-period moving average. We got it at the trend line. But from this low right here, we dropped nearly 18% from the December high. And I told you we were bottoming, and from that rally, we rallied up quickly, nearly 23%. And I told you we were going to get a pullback. We did to backtest here, the breakout of the bull flag, but I told you the move might not be done yet. Again, it might be that we're getting a larger A, B, C type of a move that might end up taking us into the golden pocket. We didn't quite reach the golden pocket. We were just above the 61.8 Fibonacci to hit that trend line. We might hit it again and come down here where these trend lines intersect. The rising trend line here that I talked about where I was expecting to bounce here, we might hit it again, or we might just move back down just slightly below this level. But again, these trend lines, whoops, wrong tool there, these trend lines intersect down here. Wouldn't be surprised to see Bitcoin test these trend lines, the upper boundary again of the breakout of the bull flag, and again this rising trend line. And again, that could take us into a deeper Fibonacci. This would form bullish diversions on the 4-hour chart if we move slightly lower, which is what I've been talking about with Bitcoin and the S&P 500, which again, they're moving in lockstep. They both form these head and shoulder patterns, which I told you was a fake pattern. And again, I was expecting a bounce off this horizontal support, this trend line right here, where they intersect, which is what happened at our support zone. We talked about the VWAP support, this area right here, this lower horizontal support at great length and detail. We're going to break out. Now, I didn't buy into this being wave 4, this being a head and shoulders, because I told you I thought it was wave 4. And again, I believe that's minor wave 4. We're in minor wave 5 right now, and I think we have our first 2 subwaves, and I think it's not quite done yet, as I keep saying. And again, it is done, I think we will go and exceed 109,000 and the 108,000, this resistance area over here. I think Bitcoin will move to the next level of resistance between 115,000 and 117,000. And if we end up clearing that, then eventually Bitcoin will make its way to 120 to 125,000, where I think it will top, completing the cycle top, as I've talked about at great length and detail. So again, I'm looking at these Fibonacci's. Didn't quite reach the 61.8 Fibonacci right here. Came just shy of it right here. Back testing the trend line. I think you probably get another back test here, probably a deeper retracement, and then end up forming a divergence right here with this low. So I'm looking at this area down in here, the 61.8 Fibonacci coming in just below 97,000, 96,878. Our 78.6 Fibonacci comes in just below the 93,500 area. So again, watching this 93,500 to this 96,878 area, this area just under 97,000. I don't know that Bitcoin goes down here, but if it does hit the 78.6 Fibonacci, our 100 period moving average is right there with our linear scaling. This is our linear scaling for Bitcoin. So I'm looking at this area, this 90, this high 96,000 area, and it's right where these trend lines intersect right here. So again, going to be looking at that, or possibly the 100 period, as I've said back over here, the 100 period. Why do I say the 100 period? Because Bitcoin follows the 100 period moving average. When you're above it, good things are happening. Again, we're holding above it, pull back towards it, we held above it, good things are happening. Below it, bad things are happening. I expect that this low that I called here in January, and I told you we were getting tested my trend line, we formed this bullish doji right here, this bottoming tail, and again, I expect that low is going to hold. I just think that we will likely see a bigger Fibonacci retracement. Now, Bitcoin's down about 0.25% or so, hovering in that just a little bit more, a little bit less, but down about 2.25% here on Friday, again, on concerns about the tariffs. The stock market and Bitcoin both rallying into the start of the tariffs, which begin today, Saturday, February 1st, but then they both put in a lower high. The S&P went back and filled the gap. We had that sell-off on Monday. It was the DeepSeek sell-off, and that gave us this push down here on Bitcoin to the trend line. I think the next leg down, I think we'll likely get it, is going to be the concerns about tariffs. But then I think Bitcoin going to bottom out, and I think, again, that's likely going to complete an ABC move here, somewhere at these Fibonacci's and these trend lines in this area. And again, we may overthrow these levels and even hit the 100 or the 78.6 Fibonacci, get a bottoming tail, looks something like this. These other bottoming tails at horizontal support. The bottoming tail right here that we got with the DeepSeek sell-off, we could see something like that. Okay, so again, just looking at this, but again, this sell-off right here completed on Monday with the DeepSeek sell-off. I think we get more volatility at the tariffs, and then I think we resume the advance. Wall Street, the crypto community, they love President Trump's economic policies. That's why we had the rally surrounding the election, and I think we have a continuation of that here. I think, with the Inauguration Day rally ahead of it, I predicted that we would bottom right here and bounce off the trend line and get a rally going into Inauguration Day. I think we have a continuation of that. But all the crypto community and Wall Street, they love Trump's economic policies. They hate his tariffs. Part of the reason why is because they believe that the tariffs are inflationary. They are not a fan of Trump's tariffs at all. They act as a tax, not triggering all this inflation, which, again, why there's so much concerns about it. We're going to have higher inflation, but eventually there's going to be a deflationary bust, but it's not going to, it's the increase in the money supply and excessive government spending that causes the inflation, not tariffs. So again, we're getting the volatility. You've got now, the tariffs have gone into effect. We might see more selling with the stock market next week surrounding that. And, as the week kicks off next week, on Monday for the stock market, and Bitcoin might join in. So again, I'll be watching these Fibonacci levels. I'll be watching these trend lines right here where they intersect, and I'll be watching the 100 period moving average. I told you we had the warning sign at the top. We had warning signs that, again, momentum was about to shift. That was the topping tail that we got there. We had rallied up 8%, and we turned, that was inauguration day right there. Got a lower high, and then we sold off down to back test, and then right now rebounding back up. So I think we have, again, probably a larger ABC move, in my opinion, and I think we come down here for another test. Probably don't take out that low, but nevertheless, we have the momentum line remaining bearish. We tried to get it to flip there. I told you about that previously, but it couldn't do it. And again, we had the rally where we tried to flip right here. We sold off with a little bit of a topping tail there, and then tried to rally again on Friday. That was Thursday, where we got that topping tail where we tried to flip and we couldn't do it. I talked about that in Thursday's video, and I told you momentum was trying to flip, but it needed to do it on a closing basis. It could not do it, and we turned back down. We dropped that down that 2.22%, I believe it was, and then the arrow tried to flip right here, turning up with momentum, and it did briefly, but then now it's flipping right back with today's session. So again, this is telling us that momentum tried to flip, but it failed. And we also know that the impulse line did flip briefly, but then now it's turning back to bearish. I'll say that in a second. We'll probably see the balance of power go into the negative region. We'll probably come back down to test the cloud here, or again, maybe take it out and get a bigger Fibonacci retracement. We'll be watching, or break the cloud, but not close below it. We might get a bottoming tail, as I said, much like what we had over here, or these other bottoming tails that I've talked about. So this is suggesting to me, again, that we're not done yet, that that momentum is still bearish, that we're probably going to get a deeper retracement. But like I said, I think it will be a higher low above the January low here. So there you have that. It's bearish, but we still have the trend signals bullish here. And the short-term swing move, we were going sideways right here, really in this fake head and shoulders pattern that I talked about. Now everybody's saying, oh, some people are anyways, a double top. And again, I think we get a pullback, and then I think we continue. I think this was wave 4. I think we're in wave 5, minor wave 5, and I think you're getting your first 2 subwaves here of minor wave 5. I'm looking for a higher low. To validate that is taking out the January low. So again, as long as we don't do that, I think you get a higher low. I don't think the pullback is done. Sticking to my guns, I think we still get a bigger pullback. Nailing these turns. I told you, be wrong. Maybe that's a bottom, but I told you I didn't think so. I think we're going to end up forming that divergence in the 4-hour time frame. Talked about it in great length and detail. My last update. Go watch it. Show the chart to you in this video. Here I have the bars reflecting momentum, and again, they've tried to turn back to green with one bar. They turned red over here, tried to turn back to green. It failed, and they're back to red. So bars reflecting momentum, the momentum line, this is all bearish. We're getting another X there, suggesting again that we're going to get another push down. We're getting the arrow, suggesting we're going to get another push down to get a larger Fibonacci retracement, in my opinion. It's going to be the tariffs that likely push Bitcoin lower for the short term in the stock market, but then I think we'll rebound. Again, I have the bars reflecting the trend, and they're going back and forth from red. Tried to flip orange here, which is neutral, and then back to green, and it failed, and now it's flipping back to red. So again, it's causing me to believe. And look at the impulse line. It went red, tried to flip back, and the impulse line is more sensitive than the momentum line. The impulse line did flip back to blue briefly, but then it failed, and I told you that could be the case. Last update, it was flipping, even though we pulled back. It held to a blue. It flipped bullish, but then it flipped right back to bearish here with the sell-off that we had on Friday. I told you it could be very possible, because I told you I didn't think the move was done yet, and I talked about that in great length of detail about forming a divergence in the 4-hour time frame. Here we still have the ribbon bullish, we still have the cloud bullish. This blue line represents the short-term swing move, or I'm sorry, short-term trend, and that's still bullish. Again, I just think we get a bigger pullback, and then I think we can resume the advance. We also, with this move right here, with the DeepSeek sell-off over here, we went negative with momentum, and we're still negative with this rally back up, which I told you, if it's over, you got to go back into positive territory. We're not there yet. So causing me to believe we're going to get a bigger sell-off here for a larger Fibonacci retracement on Bitcoin. Now, as I'm making the video, Bitcoin's falling a little bit more. It was down around 0.25%. Now it's down 0.37%, a little bit more. But again, we had the bullish divergences here. I told you we were moving to this trend line right here. This is our linear scaling. And I told you we were going to bounce here at this trend line or move below it and hit the 100 period and pop back above it. I was looking for some kind of bottoming tail or bounce off of this area, which I talked about before it happened, predicting that we would see that move if we were not yet done with the larger ABC move, which again here I believe is minor wave 4. I think we've started minor wave 5, and I think we got these subwaves. I think we come back here into this area, maybe to that 100 period or so, if we violate those trend lines, but and go to the 78.6 Fibonacci. But this is what I think is happening, and if we do, again, you can form confirmation of a higher low. It was this divergence that gave us a January bottom. We could confirm a higher low on the RSI. The same thing with the MACD. The bullish divergence here on the MACD and the price oscillator talked about the divergence forming before it ever formed. I told you we were going to get a bounce right here, and I told you again, if we came back down to a lower level and hit my trend line, we would form a bullish divergence. That is, in fact, what happened. And again, that's why I told you we were bottoming right there at the time with those divergences. And now we've had the breakout of the bull flag. S&P is doing the exact same thing, but we're rolling over on the MACD. It's still in positive territory. So again, could see it, turn down and then firm back up here around the center line if we confirm a higher low. I think that's likely going to be the case for Bitcoin. Again, while momentum is bearish for the short term, I believe that the weekly bullish trend is going to continue to dominate and take Bitcoin higher. Bulls are in control in the weekly time frame. I spent a lot of time in my last update on the 4-hour chart talking about how, again, hang on here, my trend line moved on me. I love the charting program, but sometimes when you hit save on the trend lines, hit save on the chart, the trend lines move on you. Look. Again, I think that we've likely got an ABC move here. Here it is in the 4-hour chart. And I think we're coming down and back into this trend line. And again, if we come down into this area, again, you're looking at going into that golden pocket area. And I think that's going to form a bullish divergence right here on the RSI and on the MACD. I talked about this at great length of detail previously. And I think, again, that is now what's happening with our sell-off with the tariffs there on Friday, and continuing to sell off here on Saturday. I think you're forming these bullish divergences. It was the bullish divergence that gave us a January bottom over here. It was the bullish divergence right here that gave us the bounce there in late December there, going into early into the new year to give us that fake right shoulder of the head and shoulders pattern. So again, I think you're going to bottom in this area here once we get another back test, and then I think Bitcoin's going to go higher. Do you think short term it's going to go lower, and it could go again below 97,000, which is this level right here, to again reach the 61.8 Fibonacci and backtest the trend line. Prime parameter tipped us off to that January bottom as well. I talked about the bullish divergence here on prime parameter. So again, I think that we're still pulling back here, and I think once it's done, Bitcoin will resume the advance. That momentum had rolled over here up at the extreme area. So again, I've been expecting a bigger pullback, and these, again, the trend lines have just been amazing. We do have a lot of support down here, so I think you're going to get a higher low in all likelihood. Taking out the January low would invalidate my count. So again, I don't think we're going to take it out. We look at the weekly charts, again, I think that Bitcoin is eventually headed up to this upper channel line here with our log scaling. I've talked about this. I think you're going to get divergences forming. And again, we got a topping tail last week. Okay, so the RSI and other indicators, they formed divergences, but the RSI itself, which is not seen here, it doesn't look at the topping tail, it looks at the close. So I still think you're going up higher, even though I think we're getting a bigger pullback. I think we will go higher. Here with momentum, I think you'll end up forming a divergence, much like what we had with this peak over here in March, much like what we had over here with the peak over here in the summer of 2023. Much like the tops back over here, the bottom with the bullish divergence. I think you're going to get a divergence right here, and I think that that's going to slam us up into this upper channel line. I think we'll see the same thing here. Again, one of the reasons why I don't believe we're done, I don't believe the divergences are done in the weekly time frame. I think here we're going to end up ticking back up and get that divergence. The bullish divergence gave us the bottom right here. These other bearish divergences gave us some peaks along the way of the channel, and again, the divergences at the peaks in 2021 and the 2021 bottom. So we don't have a divergence here. There is no divergence. You don't have to have a divergence, but more than likely, you're going to see one at most of the turning points, the tops, the bottoms, most of them, there was a divergence. Major ones. There was some of these bottoms, didn't see it, but with the bigger moves, we did. The major top, you're going to slam into that trend line and form this divergence. Now look at the RSI. The RSI here in the weekly time frame. Again, I don't think the divergence is done yet. We didn't have a close above the previous peak. We saw a topping tail. The RSI doesn't look at that. So again, I think the divergence is not done yet, and I think we'll end up pulling back a little bit more, and I think heading towards this upper channel line. Now here it is. You can see a little bigger. Got to be able to clear this trend line right here. This is a 2021 low that separates the two 2021 peaks. Again, I talked about a sell-off surrounding this trend line, and we sold off the December peak when we were told, oh, no possible way Bitcoin's going to go down, and it dropped nearly 18%. But I told you eventually I think we're going back above that trend line. I think we just had wave 4, and that's why I didn't think the head and shoulders was going to play out. Everybody, the people that told us that we had a head and shoulders and we were going to now move down sharply, a lot of were saying that. The same people that told us we weren't going to go down at all in December to the January low. I think we're going to end up clearing that level. I think we're building momentum to do it, and I think we'll hit that upper channel line and complete that divergence right here on the RSI. It'll form a multiple point divergence with the previous peak there in March. We'll have a bullish 2050 signal. We're above the 20-week moving average. We're above 50 on the RSI. When we see Bitcoin peak out, start sharply dropping from the high, and we'll end up dropping below that 20-week moving average and dropping below the 50 level, and then we'll stay there as we get the next bearish phase once Bitcoin tops out. But again, the blow-off top is not done. And again, markets tend to end with blow-off tops. I think that's going to take us up to this upper channel line. My signals remain bullish on Bitcoin in the weekly time frame, and I think this divergence is likely going to form. I think you got the same thing up here on the stochastic in the weekly time frame, and you're forming these larger divergences here. Now the MACD has gone higher. The gone higher, but you still have the diversions going on here with momentum in the price oscillator. The weekly time frame, it was divergences that marked the peak there in 2021. Even the MACD had it. Even though the MACD has gone higher, these other indicators have not. They're still diverging with the previous peak from the March high. So again, I think you've got these divergences going on. I don't think they're done yet, but I do think they will complete once we go up and slam up into that upper channel line. So again, parallel boundary, we hit it right here. I think we'll hit it again just a little bit higher. And that's probably going to take Bitcoin to the 120 to 125,000 area. So depending on when we come into contact with it. Moving down on Friday, concerns about the tariff boogeyman. I've drawn Trump here as the tariff boogeyman. Concerns that tariffs are going to cause inflation to sharply rise, which is not going to happen. Not a fan of Trump's tariffs by any means. The tariffs will act as a tax. Now today, the tariffs begin on products from Canada, Mexico at 25%, and 10% tariffs go into place there on China products So anybody buying products from these countries, assuming there are no exceptions, is going to pay for those products in those countries. This is going to act, if no exceptions are made, this is going to act as about a $250 billion tax. This breaks down to about $2,000 per household. The myth is of Wall Street and why we're seeing the sell-off, and I think we're going to get more volatility next week to give us another push down, but then to resume the advance. Concerns about a trade war and all this stuff, I think it's going to create a little bit more volatility. We saw that in 2018. Was in a bear market during all of that time, off of the 2017 high when all this stuff was going on with tariffs before and all the uncertainty. Now, just like back then, there are those that told us, oh no, it's going to create all this inflation, and it didn't. The inflation rate remained, the CPI remained just under 2% or just over 2%. See this massive surge in inflation. The tariffs don't cause inflation. That's a myth. It does act as a tax. But that's why Wall Street, and I'm telling you all this because Wall Street and the crypto community, they're freaking out from the tariff boogeyman there. Tariffs because they believe that it's going to create inflation. Now, inflation is going to go higher, but eventually we're going to get this deflationary bust when the recession hits, and it's going to resolve the issue with inflation. We saw the same thing in 2007 and 8. It's making the same mistakes that they made back then. I think that this is going to rattle Bitcoin and the stock market for a little while to complete our wave 2, our subwave 2 in our minor wave 5, and I think it will take Bitcoin eventually higher. You can see, these concerns maybe ease or negotiations happening. I end up lifting them or whatever hopes may be, counting the tariffs, but eventually I think you're going to see Bitcoin go higher, but I think eventually it's going to be really two things for the stock market and to move into the recession. It's concerns about inflation freak out. I think the crypto community will do the same thing with Bitcoin. The second thing is, again, I think the bursting of the AI bubble, which again, off this week, we're told that wasn't going to happen. What did we have? The DeepSeek sell-off. We saw it with the cryptocurrencies. We saw it with the stock market. Everything we're being told, oh no, that can't possibly happen. So again, moving towards recession, eventually we will peak. We are going to go higher. I think we'll get a deeper pullback, and then I think it'll be done. But right now, I think the next wave of selling here revealed on Friday, and I talked about this the previous week. I told you Trump had delayed the tariffs until February 1st. I told you there could be volatility surrounding that. Actually, I think that Bitcoin will shrug it off, go higher, but then I think it will be a concern later. Part of the inflation concern is we're going to begin to see inflation start to rise. And we are seeing already the M2 money supply begin to rise. Inflation based on that is really 3.9%, just under annualized, just under 4% there. Seeing that increase. Again, I do expect the CPI to rise further. It's not going to, it's not going to be the tariffs that are creating inflation. Some prices rise, some prices go down. Fed, the bond market, and now the herd, everybody's, the tariff boogeyman, inflation. It's really the Fed's failed policies that have given us the inflation, the excessive government spending, over $7 trillion last year, the largest amount in history. But it's an increase in the money supply, excessive government spending that has created inflation, not the tariffs. What you have to do is just look back at 2018. So again, but I'm just trying to explain this to you because the crypto community, Wall Street, they believe this, okay? And that's why we're going to, there's this inflation concern. So again, I think we get a bigger pullback on the S&P and Bitcoin, and then I think they move higher. I added a little humor to it, drawing Trump as the tariff boogeyman there. Some people don't get my sense of humor, though.